Hello again, guys. I'm Gavin here at AI Governance Engineering, and today we're going to do kind of a continuation from where we left off in our last episode with the SageMaker ISO compliance tool. I mentioned at the end of that video that I was going to make a few tweaks to it. Most notably, I was going to bolt onto those ISO standards, the EU AI Act, so that we can see where it's complying and where it's not complying, to just give a bit more information in detail, and also importantly expand on my own learning journey as I'm trying to take AI governance and make it more automated, more consistent and more reliable, essentially. So let's dive in. So the main key steps are this. For example, a data scientist would register the model in SageMaker model registry. Event Bridge detects the model needs approval. Lambda functions will execute 2 AI-powered assessments, one being the ISO standards audit, which is around 6 to 8 international ISO standards or technical standards, and then the EU AI Act risk classification tool, which is another tool that I built out as well. And like I said, for this example, I brought that in as additional sort of assurance. At the end, I've decided to break the outputs into 4 specialized reports. One will be like a more stripped down executive summary for leadership, which gets kind of to the point and in a language that they can understand. The next one is an ISO standards report, which is more for technical teams. Then there'll be an EU AI Act assessment for legal and compliance. And then finally, there'll be an evidence JSON for automation and audit trails. The model is auto approved or rejected based on compliance. And notifications can be sent with report links to all concerned parties. So again, similar to last time, as you can see here, I've got a PyTorch customer service chatbot that needs to be deployed. In the old world, you'd submit paperwork and wait weeks, but we're going to see what happens now with this system I've created. So here's my model again in SageMaker model registry. The status is currently at approved. So let's trigger a fresh compliance assessment. So first you can see that it's coming as approved. So what I'm going to do is select it. And this is the latest version I've been working on. You can ignore all these for now. And then we're going to update the deployment status to pending. And we're going to click save. And the moment I click update, Event Bridge triggers our compliance gate or our compliance system. The assessment starts immediately, and at this point there is no human in the loop. So let's go. So it's updating now. And if we go to CloudWatch, we're in log groups already, and we can click start tailing. So if you can see here, ISO audit pattern completed, passing ISO compliance stage from audit report. ISO compliance status is amber, compliant true. Extracting individual ISO standards, and there you can see some of the standards: 29119, 42119, 5259, 5338. Executing EU AI Act risk classification, executing AI Act risk classifier pattern, completed, mapping ISO compliance to EU AI Act requirements, and then it's give us the risk tier as limited risk. EU AI Act compliance, compliant limited risk, final compliance decision approved, generating compliance reports, generated executive summary, EU AI Act report, compliance evidence JSON, dating model registry status to approved. So it's approved with warnings because there is some compliance gaps, and it's saying the review is recommended. Tells you here that it's storing all compliance reports in S3. That's where it's stored them, that particular bucket. That particular bucket, that particular bucket, that particular bucket. Successfully stored 4 reports in S3. And it's also sending an SNS notification. And it's also confirmed that it's sent there. Compliance assessment completed successfully, status approved. And you can see the duration in milliseconds there. And if I quickly jump into my email here, you can see that I've got the report, say model 5. Compliance status amber, EU AI Act risk tier, limited risk, executive summary. What else have we got? Compliance evidence JSON, EU AI Act assessment, ISO standards reports. All the links are there. And again, obviously you can direct this to all parties concerned. So if we go back now to SageMaker Studio, I'll quickly have a refresh, because remember we changed it to pending manual approval. We've executed the pattern, and then when we refresh, you can see now it's showing as approved. It's the same customer service chatbot. If we click into version 5, and we can see here status updated to approved, warnings approved with compliance gaps. It detected compliance gaps but still approved it because it's limited risk under the EU AI Act, and that's intelligent decision making. 4 minutes ago, this is the one we're looking at. We're now going to jump over to S3. If we click into our S3 bucket, we're going to click into audit reports. Here's the number which connects to our particular system, version 5. Click into that, and then we've got a bunch of reports here. So here are our 4 specialized reports, all generated at the exact same timestamp, as you can see. So instead of like one generic report, you can get 4 specialized reports for different audiences, and that's the key innovation here. I was originally doing it with one, but I thought, well, let's see if we can extract as much valuable information as possible for different audiences. So first we're going to click on executive-summary.md, and we're going to open. In fact, no, let's download. If we download this, let's see what we can open it with to make it a bit more visually appealing. So we've opened it inside Cursor here. Again, you can choose any way you want to read this. So let's have a look what we've got. So for executive summary, there's the model version again, and it tells you overall status approved with warnings, regulatory compliance status, ISO standards assessment, compliant green, 0 standards, partial compliance amber against 5 standards, non-compliant red against 1 standard. It gives you EA Act overall compliance, EU AI Act overall compliance, risk classification, compliance status. It's compliant because it's limited risk. Decision approved, limited risk, but transparency obligations apply. Now it gives you some of the key findings article by article. Article 9, risk management system status non-compliant. ISO evidence 23894 is red, and ISO 42001 is not applicable. Article 10, data and data governance, it's compliance as we assess it against ISO 5259. Article 15, accuracy, robustness and cybersecurity, it's compliant. Again, it was audited against 29119, 42119 and 25058. Article 17, quality management system, again non-compliant, 42001, 5338. Recommendations, deployment approved, limited risk, transparency obligations apply, and then just a bit more detail. Report structure, this assessment includes 4 components. And again, this is just a general overview that you can give to the executives in your business. Okay, so let's now go back and let's look for EU AI Act assessment.md, and again we can either download it, it's quite lengthy, but let's just open it again, download it and open it in Cursor. So this is the game changer and the recent update that I made to the tool. It just bolted on some sort of more assurance by connecting the data to the ISO standards, but then saying, okay, well, how's this correlating or connecting with the EU AI Act, which is essentially, adding a lot more value. And this is just an idea that I've had. Again, I don't claim to be an expert in this. I'm just simply trying to take the knowledge that I've learned from the AIGP certification, which I passed in January of this year, and just trying to marry it with my sort of my love for technology, and sort of to give myself an edge in this quite competitive market, and hopefully as well just add some value. So anyway, enough waffle from me. Let's have a look at what this does. So again, you can see that it's referring to my model version 5. There's the date and time. Regulation against the EU AI Act. So it's saying it's limited risk. Article 52, AI systems that interact with humans, such as customer service chatbots, fall under transparency obligations. Compliance cost, and again, it's giving you a breakdown of just how much you can be paying for this kind of stuff. My job is to essentially make that a lot more affordable. Implementation time, again, this is estimated, but for companies that have got no idea, here's a benchmark. But again, these will vary based on your specific context. Compliance requirements, transparency obligations, inform users they are interacting with an AI system in line with Article 52. And then you've got some next steps. Develop a mechanism to inform users that they are interacting with an AI system. You may or may not have that. Data handling policies. Ensure data protection and privacy measures are in place, particularly given the high impact on customer decisions. Bias monitoring. Continuously monitor and mitigate bias even though the bias metric is low. Validation and testing. Conduct validation to ensure system reliability given the high impact on customer decisions. And documentation, which is this is clearly the most important thing with the EU AI Act, is documentation. And again, if you're relying on just the old spreadsheet formula, you know, how far can you go with that? How deep can you go with that? How consistent can you be with that? And the tools I'm trying to build are essentially trying to help solve some of those issues, and especially for small to medium-sized businesses that may not have the time, the capabilities, and more importantly, the budget to purchase these tools or develop them. So documentation is key, guys. As it says, prepare documentation on compliance measures with audits and assessments. Edge cases and consideration. Confidence level high that this falls under limited risk due to the nature of customer service chatbots. High impact decisions. Although classified as limited risk, the high impact on customer decisions necessitates careful implementation of transparency and data handling measures. So again, just because it's limited risk, you know, that shouldn't mean that you can take your foot off the gas or, you know, just be blasé and lazy about this. There's still things to consider, even at limited risk. And hopefully this tool would go some way to informing you to make decisions on that. Applicable requirements, limited risk AI system requirements. As a limited risk AI system, this model must comply with Article 52, transparency obligations, which are mandatory. Users must be informed, clear disclosure of AI generated content, compliance assessment results, overall compliance. And it's just continuing on, just confirming what the status is, what the decision is. And again, Article 9, risk management system, goes into more detail, how it's mapped against relevant ISO standards, risk management, and your AIM system. Clause 6.1, risk management framework missing, risk assessment process missing, risk treatment controls missing. Article 10, data and data governance. Training, validation, and testing data must be subject to appropriate data governance. And again, that's something I might do at a later date, is add a sort of GDPR wrapper over the top of this, just to make the tool more informative. But again, which I don't see anyone doing at the moment. I've sort of extracted as much as I can from ISO 5259 for data quality, and hopefully again that just adds another layer of assurance that most people are probably not looking at. With this status, your compliance, evidence, data quality metrics are present. Bias detection and mitigation present, and data representative assessment is present. Again, all from 5259. Article 15, accuracy, robustness and security. Appropriate levels of accuracy, robustness and security. And again, ISO 29119 for test documentation. 42119 for AI testing, which is brand new. And 25058 for quality assessment of AI systems. You know, combining these three is new. You're not really seeing that at the moment. So again, assurance. Is it going to be perfect? Probably not, but it's a starting place. What else is happening at the moment in that regard for data assurance anyway, or data awareness? Compliance status, compliant evidence, etc. 17, quality management system. Comprehensive quality management system not available. 5338 AI lifecycle is documented though. You're non-compliant. AI management system establishes missing. Lifecycle processes are documented, they're present. Change control procedures are present. Gap analysis and remediation. Article 9, risk management system. Establish comprehensive AI risk management system aligned with 23894. So it's telling you exactly where to go. Document risk assessment processes covering all AI specific threats. Another gap, Article 17, quality management system. Again, AIMS is there. Document the complete lifecycle processes per 5338, AI system lifecycle. Implement change control and version management procedures. 5, conformity assessment, limited risk, no conformity assessment required, no CE marking required. And then just the set again, the transparency obligations apply. And again, the date and time for auditing, the framework that you've been assessed against, and the assessor was AWS SageMaker Compliance Gate, my tool. So again, this would be leaning more towards sort of legal and compliance teams that need to prove EU AI Act compliance to regulators, or at least add it to the other documentation that they may be. So if we go back inside our S3 bucket, let's see what else we've got to look at. Compliance evidence.json. Let's have a look at this, and we'll just open this inside AWS console. So this evidence is sort of machine readable. Your automated systems can parse this, and we've got assessment metadata. What else? Framework version, ISO standards plus EU AI Act regulation. There's the model ARN number, the model name, ISO standards assessment. It's got the list of them there. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different ISO standards, the overall status of them, summaries, EU AI Act assessment. And again, this feeds into dashboards, CI/CD pipelines, audit management systems, and that's essentially how you can scale compliance across hundreds of models, if not more. If we're going to go back to the S3 bucket, see what else we've got, and let's have a look at the ISO standards report. If we download that as well, open this up inside Cursor and just look at this for rich data. So what have we got here? So system overview, the AI system, My AI Models version 5 serves as a customer service chatbot designed for YouTube demos. It operates using a PyTorch-based model deployed on AWS SageMaker. The audit scope covers compliance with integrated ISO standards, focusing on governance, process documentation, data quality, AI lifecycle management, risk management, and quality evaluation. Overall conformance assessment, AMBER. The assessment reveals significant gaps in data documentation, risk management processes, and validation results impacting overall compliance. 5 cross-standard risks or deficiencies, data quality documentation, lack of detailed training data specifications affects data quality against ISO 5259, and testing strategy against the recent release 421192, risk management framework, incomplete risk analysis and treatment strategies against the ISO 23894, validation process, absence of validation specifications undermines test documentation against 291193, and quality evaluation against 25058. Lifecycle process documentation, insufficient AI lifecycle process documentation, bias metrics, bias metric reporting lacks integration with risk management and testing strategies against these 2 standards. Again, priority recommendations: immediately establish comprehensive data documentation for training data sets and develop a risk management framework aligned with ISO 23894. In the short term, define and implement validation specifications and procedures. Enhance lifecycle process documentation with tailoring declarations. Medium term, integrate bias metrics into risk management and testing strategies. And then you've got a table of integrated compliance giving you a snapshot. And again, you get the name of the standard, how many parts were used, focus area, quite clear, the overall status. We've got amber and red. Key strengths: test accuracy strong, high test accuracy, initial bias metric approved, deployment AWS SageMaker, non-high test accuracy, critical gaps listed there, which we've already gone over, and then some evidence that is required. Cross-standard assessment 291193, test documentation and evidence, work product status, test policy and test reports need development. Test accuracy reported at 0.95 but lacks supporting validation documentation. Traceability, missing validation procedures, impact traceability to ISO 421192, and risk mitigations in ISO 23894. Again, the most recent ISO technical standard 421192, AI testing, risk-based testing, incomplete without validation and bias metrics integration, needs alignment with identified high-risk decisions. Test design techniques, coverage requires enhancement to reflect AI-specific risks. What else? And we've got 259, training data lacks specification impact test, specification impacting test and risk process, and the documentation is insufficient to support 29113 and 23894. As you can see, just a ton of rich ISO data there. And again, description, risk 1, risk 2, risk 3, risk 4, risk 5, lack of data, source or standard, impacted lifecycle stage, training, testing, deployment, mitigation, develop comprehensive data documents, establish framework, the residual risk high, medium, owner to be decided, and the due date, evidence and documentation map, test policy against this standard required by clause 5, current status not available, owner, location, neither there, gap, develop and document test policy. And again, you have a rough recommendation roadmap, which you can sort of amend to your own liking. And there you have the appendices of which documents were used. So let's talk about why we need 4 different reports. The executive summary is designed for decision makers who need to know, can we deploy, yes or no? What's the risk level, limited or high? What are the top concerns with an article by article breakdown? And what do we need next? What do we need to do next with clear recommendations? The ISO standards report is much more detailed, and this is like for your technical teams who need to understand which specific ISO clauses are passed and failed, what evidence is missing, and how to remediate the gaps. It covers a lot of ISO standards which I've merged together, such as 29119 for test documentation, 42119 for AI testing, 5259 for data quality, 5338 for AI lifecycle, 23894 for AI risk management, and 25058 for quality evaluation of AI systems. So each standard, it tells you exactly what's missing. There's a lack of test documentation, and this impacts testing and risk management. The EU AI Act is an additional feature that I added after the last video, and I feel like this is the game changer. This is designed for more legal and compliance teams, and it answers the questions such as what risk tier is this AI system, prohibited, high risk, limited, minimal, what's the mandatory requirements, and are we compliant with each EU AI Act article relevant to this system, and what's our conformity assessment path. Again, it classifies the risk, as we've already seen in this demonstration. So then it also tells us which articles we need to comply with, which in this case was transparency obligations, and we just need to ensure that we tell users they're talking to an AI. It still checks all the high risk articles and shows you where you'd fall short if this were high risk, and that's proactive governance. It gives you a remediation roadmap, so if you want to strengthen your compliance, here's what you can do. And again, that will depend on your time and your resources and your capabilities. And finally, it tells you what's required for EU market placement. So no CE marking, no notified body, just transparency for a limited risk system. Evidence JSON is machine readable, and this is for automated dashboards such as Power BI, Grafana, etc. It's useful for audit trails, compliance management systems, CI/CD pipelines, and obviously you would know this, but your automated systems can parse this. There's no human needed, and that's essentially how you scale compliance. So with this level of documentation, everyone gets what they need. No one has to read irrelevant details, and that again is efficient governance. So let's kind of just recap what we've seen. The speed is from 6 to 8 weeks. Down to 90 seconds. You go and calculate the time saved with that. Costs, take your pick, but anything from $50,000 down to whatever this cost. And again, you're looking at probably at 95% cost reduction, which will make this approach to AI governance engineering much more affordable for those companies that need it. The coverage, you get around 6 to 8 ISO standards automatically assessed. You get an EU AI Act risk classification and compliance tool and 4 specialized reports. 0 human intervention required. Continuous compliance on every model update. And there's audit-ready evidence automatically generated. I'm not saying this is the complete package of documentation, because we know that EU AI Act compliance is going to require a hell of a lot of documentation. Where are you getting that documentation from? How regular are you getting that documentation? Is the updates in the versions of your documentation keeping in line with the speed of your progress in relation to developments of the system? And if you think about traditional consulting and the pace of change of your system, how is that scalable in terms of time and cost? I just don't know how it is. And hopefully something like this system can just, again, go some way towards filling that gap. So with this system in place, you can deploy models continuously without compliance bottlenecks. You can scale AI governance across your organization. You can meet EU AI Act requirements automatically, and you can build trust with regulators and customers, and probably sleep a little better at night knowing that every model has had some form of assessment. So if you found this valuable, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more AI governance content, and drop a comment if you have questions. I'm still a small channel at the moment, so I'm reading every single one. And all the feedback is encouraging and informative to me. So this is the future of AI compliance, and you just watched it happen in around 25 minutes. See you in the next one. Take care.